And the reason is because in spiritual realm, Malchus, all the Chayas goes back to its source. When we learned this before Rosh Hashanah, we learned a chapter in Tanya where he said that this is like when a person goes to sleep. When a person goes to sleep, all day long he was spending his energy doing different things, intellectual energy, emotional energy, physical energy. At night, when a person goes to sleep, everything sort of goes back inside into the source. So on a global scale, on a larger scale, all the chayes Hashem invests in creation, all that goes back to its source every Rosh Hashanah. And then what happens? And then through our blowing shofar and through the davening of Rosh Hashanah, what do we accomplish? We bring that the new light back. So we bring a new light, and that new light shines on the Aretz. Which Aretz? The superb in the spiritual Aretz, which is Malchus. Makar de Biyah, and that's the source of all the worlds in Bria, Yitzir, Asiyah. And all those that live on these worlds, which means all the worlds, all the worlds get chayis from Malchus. Remember, we said the pasuk in Ashrei, Malchuscha, Malchus Kolei Lamin. We're on page 141. Where's the booklets? We're on page 141, and then with the Secha Galachas Mitzayim. The Hebrew English edition. So the new chayas, the new source, the new light that shines from Hashem, shines into Malchus, and that's where all the worlds get their sustenance from. All the worlds means Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, and everything in all these worlds, everything in the physical world, all the neshamas and all the malachim that are in the spiritual worlds, they all get their chayas from Malchus. And in essence, true, Malchus is the one that gives the chayas, but Malchus gets its chayas from a higher place, which is Chochma. Which means the Eretz is established with wisdom. That's a simple meaning, but spiritually it means Eretz refers to the sphere of Malchus, and where does it get its power from and its sustenance from Chochma. That's in the language of Kabbalah. So what he says in the Geras HaKedesh, what we learned then was that this is similar to what happened the first Rosh Hashanah of creation. The first Rosh Hashanah of creation was the day that Adam Rishon was created. What did Hashem do? He put Adam to sleep. The first day, he was already born, he was just created, and he was already put to sleep. So put to sleep means that his chayas went back to its source. But it wasn't only him, the same thing with all the worlds. What happened next? What happened next was a new human being appeared, which was Chava. And as a result of that, Adam and Chava together had children, and the children had children. And all the generations of millions and billions of people came out as a result of that. So what we saw is that the old chayas went back to its source, and new life came, and that's the source of all the new life. Spiritually, this is what happens on Rosh Hashanah. All the chayas that Hashem manifests throughout the year returns back to its source, and the new year, there's new chayas for the new year. Page 140, this new life energy that's being drawn down is called Chayas Kloli. It's a general energy. And that's what's drawn into the sphere of Malchus. And in it, it includes Chayas, again, for every world of the three worlds, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, and every single angel, and every single neshama, and every single world, and every single detail in this world gets its chayas from there. So it's called chayas kloli. But in order that this chai should be broken down into details, which means that this light should shine to each creation according to its level, according to its capacity. So, for example, if Hashem gives chayas to a malachim of a higher world, they need to get more chayas. A lower world is less chayas. Some malachim are chesed, they get a different kind of chayas. Some malachim are gvura, they get a different kind of chayas. In the spiritual realm, there's Gan Eden, there's Gehenim, there's different levels of Gan Eden. And of course, in this world, there are humans, there are animals, there are plants, and every human is different, every plant is different, the color is different, the taste is different, the I guess nutritional value of different plants are different. Everything is different about it. So it's a different chayas. All these differences and all these details, they come out of the chayas clothing. That means first, all these details are found in something general. That's the chayas clothing, the general chayas. And then later, it gets distributed to each creation according to what it needs. This process, where things get broken down to details, that's called hasima, sealed. Page 141, 143. And that's why it says in the Arizal that this is called Hey Gvuris. Shemekabelas Hey Gvuris. Gevura is something that breaks things up into details. That's what Gevura does. Gevura makes borders and separations, and this is A, and this is B, and this is C. So therefore, the union of the sale is taking that chayas, that general chayas, and breaking down the details. With your strength, you shattered the sea, referring to the splitting of the sea. How was the sea split? With Hashem's gevura. That's why it says ba'oscha. With your strength, it's gevura. So these 5 gevuras, they are the ones who make this separation, that the chayas, which is general, gets broken up and divided into different categories and different groups and different details. The Chalak Proteus meaning Amshochas Achayes Muchalokim Necholechad Vechad Kipiyarker. So the mushal to this is a mushal, even though it's not in a certain way, it's a mushal only in one detail. I'll soon tell you the difference. But the mushal is, for example, here in New York City, we get water from a reservoir somewhere. I think the water comes from the Delaware River. So there's a big river. When you look at the river, there's no difference in the water between the water that's going to end up in Brooklyn, or the water that's going to end up in the Bronx, or the water that's going to end up in another place. Water is water. It's all the same. Now, it's understood that the river can't flow straight into my house, because then my whole house would float away, right? So the water goes into this huge pipes. I think there are pipes as big as this room. And these are, they call them conduits. And the water goes through these pipes, and they're brought from Delaware River to New York City. But these pipes are also too big to go into a person's house. So these pipes get broken down to smaller pipes. One pipe goes, let's say, to Manhattan. One pipe goes to Brooklyn. One big pipe goes to another area. And in each area gets broken down. This goes to this neighborhood. This goes to that neighborhood. And even the pipe that comes to Brooklyn, this is not the only place in Brooklyn. So there has to be another pipe that brings the water down to Eastern Parkway. And that pipe is also a big pipe, and also too big for me in my house. So the pipe goes down the street, and from that pipe, there's a smaller pipe that goes into each house on Eastern Parkway. 825 Eastern Parkway has a pipe that goes from the street in here. And where does it go to? The basement. From the basement, there's a pipe that goes to the first floor, to the second floor, to the third floor, a pipe that goes to the sink, a pipe that goes to the bathroom, a pipe that goes to the shower, and the pipes go to different places. So you start off with something which is general, and that's the source of everything, all the places that are going to have water, but it has to be broken down to details. But the Gashmis, when you give the mushal of the pipe, there is no difference between the water here and the water there. But spiritually, there's a difference. The chayas in animals is different than in humans, and the chayas in every single species of animals is different than the other species of animals. And each individual animal is different. Each individual person is different. All this is included in the chayas koli, and then it gets broken down to details. So it gets broken down, every creation according to what they can handle. So how much highest does everything in the world get? So other things in the world are judged by Hashem. Humans, it depends on our avodah. Depending on what avodah I did the year before, that's how much chayah. It means I made myself more of a vessel, so I get more chayas. We find the Hegvuris in another place, and that is regarding speech. That when a person speaks, of course, the voice is the same no matter what I'm saying. But the words are different. So when a person speaks, the voice comes out of the source of the voice in the body. And then those letters that go through the teeth are letters that have one sound, like Zayin, Tzadik. Those letters that go through the tongue have another sound, like Lamed, Nun. Those letters that go through the lips have another sound, like Beis, Fei, and so on. So that means that there's something which is general, and then it goes through different things that makes different sounds. And how many are there? So there are 5 parts of the mouth. That's also the same idea with the 5. Shem mine hamshachas chayes shenis. It means it's 5 different kind of chayes. Mishkas l'kutei morim. Because Hashem also has that. Hashem doesn't have chas v'shalom physical vocal cords, but being that it says in Chumash and Hashem spoke, it means Hashem speaking and our speaking is the same. This is the mashal, that's the nimshal. So by Hashem, it means also there's a certain chayes which is general, that's the voice. And then that chayes gets broken up in 5 different categories, which are the 5 articulations of the mouth, of the tongue, the lips, and all these different things. And through that, there's 22 letters of the alphabets. And with the 22 letters of the alphabets, the Eibishter puts together millions and billions of different words, and that's how everything in the world gets created. When Hashem wanted to create an eagle, and the Hebrew word for eagle is nesher, that's the process that went through. There's the chayes, slowly, then it gets broken down into details, and eventually there's different letters of the alphabet, and there's one word which is spelled nun, shin, reish, and that gives life to an eagle. That sustains the eagle, that gives life to the eagle, that creates the eagle, and the same with everything else in creation. 142. So even though there are only 22 letters of the alphabets, but there are nevertheless infinite things in creation, because Mishinoi Tzirufi Oisius, but Tmuras, by the combination of the letters being different, and also there are letters that are substituted by other letters, and all sorts of changes and exchanges. Nimshech Shinoi V'Schalkos HaChayis LaNevrayim K'meshes Borishom. Like explained in the Geras in the Shaykh Amuna, that even though we don't find in the Torah written anywhere all the different things that exist in creation, there's just a few limited things that are written in the Chumash. The sun, the moon, trees, but it doesn't mention all the details and all the species. So he says they're not mentioned there, but from certain words that Hashem pronounced, this itself produces a new word, because the word itself, the letters are the same letters. When they're rearranged, it becomes a new word. So the new word is included in the original word. And sometimes it's not a rearranging of letters, sometimes it's the gematria, being that the first word is gematria 345. So as a result of that, a new word emerges, which is also 345. And that's how infinite things come out of 22 letters of the Aleph Beis. So this process of breaking things down to details, spiritually, this is the chesed, this is the seal. Why is it called a seal? What's the connection between the word seal and breaking down the details? What's the connection? What they get initially from Chesed of Atik, that's the general chayes. And the new light of Hashem that comes from Ein Sof, from His infinite light. Where she goes, like it says, Hazon es olam kulei betuvei b'cheinu b'chesed. Page 145. Hashem sustains the whole world with His goodness, with grace and kindness. Achliyes chayes kololi l'choleilamis, but because it's a general chayes, and Hashem gives life to all the worlds, le'nita b'yischalkas the pratim. There are no details. The schalkas the pratim, but the breaking it down to details, that's the hey gvurim. And what comes out as a result of that? As a result of that, nitan kitzva the shira chesed anim shalachol nivru proteus. Every creation, there's a certain measurement how much chesed they're going to get, depending on their avodah of the year before. So one person could get X amount of chesed, the other person would get also chesed, but smaller chesed. How much for this person, how much for that person? That's what it means when Chazal use the term ktsuvim. It means it was designated, a certain measurement. Comes to the word measurement. Let me say that first, explain it, then we'll do it inside. So what is the chesed? He's going to explain now that every person needs a lot of bracha and a lot of chesed. Person wants to be healthy. That's Hashem's chesed. They want to have parnasa. That's Hashem's chesed. They want to have a house to live in. Hashem's chesed. Clothing. Hashem's chesed. All the things we mentioned in davening. My eyes should be healthy. My feet should be healthy. My hands should be healthy. My back should be healthy. My power of speech should be healthy. Every little detail is Hashem's chesed in another way. So if a person, for example, the Eibush says this person is getting 100 pounds of chesed. I'm just throwing out a language. It doesn't go by pounds. It will say 100 pounds of chesed. So there's enough chesed for all those major things that he needs. And then what happens if a person has chesed of Hashem in all these areas, but there's one area that he doesn't see the bracha in that area. In that area, he doesn't see Hashem's bracha. That's a sign that there was enough chesed for all these 99 things, but this one thing, there wasn't enough chesed to go for that as well. Imagine if you were in charge and Hashem gives the chayes koli, and He says, you're getting 100 pounds of chesed, and then Hashem says, where do you want it to go? For health, for children, for a house, for clothing, for friendship, where do you want the chesed to go? It'd be a very difficult choice to make. So the Eibishter makes a choice for us, knowing what's best for us. But once the Eibishter makes the choice, before that happens, then the chesed can go in this direction or can go another direction. But once the Eibishter makes the choice and it goes in a specific direction, then you can. It's already now in this path. It's going in the path that's giving me food, and that's going in the path that's giving me a house. That's going in the path that's giving me money. This is going in the path that's giving me health. So now, once it goes in that path, now I can change it. It's already formed. It's formed in a specific way. What he's going to bring out later, that sometimes through very, I guess, specific effort and different things we can switch it. But generally speaking, once it goes through the process that it's already separated, like I imagine like the mushel with the water. Once the water comes from there to New York, and now it's going in the pipe that goes to Brooklyn. This water is going to Brooklyn. You can't have this water go to a different place. It's already in this pipe. And once it goes to Brooklyn, it goes down this street. It's now down this street. It can't go to another place. So that's what it means that it's called chasima. It's sealed. Now it's not changeable. Before it would be changeable, but now it's not changeable. It's like having a piece of dough, and you can make any kind of thing with it. You can make a cookie. You can make this kind of cookie. You can make challah. You can do this, that. So good dough, you might say, doesn't matter. But once you bake it into a certain form, okay, now that's the form. You can't make it dough again. But when it's dough, you can decide and choose what form you're going to give it. That's the chayes kloli. Chayes kloli is when it's still raw, and you can make it any form in any direction. And the chasima means now Hashem seals it and is designated each thing to a different direction. Number one, the direction is different. Number two, the amount is also already measured. Let's see the words inside. 144. It's quoting the pasuk in Megillah Esther, which I mentioned before, that when Achashverosh made a decree, and Esther said, "Could you recall that?" Achashverosh said, "No." Once it's sealed with the king's ring, it can't be retracted. Spiritually, it means once it's sealed and formed, it can't do anything. The clothes, when the chayes is still in a general state, it hasn't been formed yet. Over there, you can still change it. So in that case, one could receive more and one can receive less. That's why it says that the Eibishter gives the chayes on Rosh Hashanah, but until Yom Kippur, it's not sealed. On Yom Kippur, that's when Hashem makes this division. That's when Hashem designates the chayes in a more specific way. If a person is able to improve themselves with tshuva, and they have that time until Yom Kippur, until the last moment when the doors are closed, they'll get a bigger portion of chesed. So now we're talking about, in general, Hashem gives chesed to the world, but each person gets a different measurement of chesed. So if I do tshuva, I can get more of that chunk of chesed. Well, the opposite could happen. But once the division has been made, then it's too late. It's sealed. It can't be changed. But the fees there, based on this, so my question of before is even stronger. So what's the point in asking every day, what's the point in asking Hashem, if Hashem already designated that I have the bracha for refuah, so I have it. And if I don't have it, it's too late. Everything is formed already. So what's the point in asking for the bracha every day? So the answer is, this is because of another reason. The inyan is, is this chesed, even after it's divided into hegburas, every person gets a certain portion. Where is this? This is in a very high spiritual world, in Malchus Vatzilus. This chesed is not yet capable that this chesed should give me the bracha that I'm looking for in the physical world. Children, food, clothing, a house. This chesed is very spiritual. So the chesed has to evolve from there, come down lower and lower, until it could reach a point that this chesed could give me life, begashmis. But otherwise, it's a spiritual light. Bone chaya mezayne. The general bracha, this is in Gemara, and in davening we find that there's three things talked about, but they really include all the brachas. Bone is children, chaya is life, and sustenance mezaynis. B'chlolam kol ha'teva shel gashmi. This really includes all the types of material benefits. Shem teva is be'elam hazeh. We're talking about things that are happening that are good in this physical world. Chesed of Hashem is all about kindness. To transmit kindness and goodness to others. Up there in Atzilus, when they talk about chesed, it's revealing godliness. It's not about a piece of cake. It's not about money. It's not about a comfortable house or a car. It's about revealing godliness. So one malach gets more godliness, one malach gets less godliness. One neshama gets more godliness, one neshama gets less godliness. We're talking about things that are materialistic. We want things that we need to live physically. The sagwa madregas tev, this goodness is too removed from the kind of goodness we're asking for. Mechayis nimshik memenu inyanim gashmim shem nechshavim tev be'elam hazeh. There's a story with the Frierdiker Rebbe that when he was a young child, he was sleeping.
Morning.
Good morning, Leah. The morning has begun. So this other very great chassid came to speak with the Rebbe Rashab, that came to learn something, and he saw the Frierdiker Rebbe as a child sleeping. And he said to the Rebbe Rashab, you can see on his face, but now that he's sleeping, the pureness of his thoughts, that he has a thought that's pure, taras hamachshava. And it made the Rebbe Rashab at that moment feel a tremendous feeling of love for the Frierdiker Rebbe, very proud of him. And he said that he wanted to give him a kiss. But then instead of giving him a kiss, he exchanged it for a mimer. He wrote a mimer special for him, which he gave it to him later when he grew up. In other words, the chesed, the love, could be expressed through a kiss, or could be expressed through a mimer. So imagine if a little child is running up to his father and wants a kiss. No, you stay there. I'm going to write a mimer for you. For little children, it's just not going to work. And the same thing here. The chesed and atzilus is all godly things. This godly that there's a chesed, there's a gevurah sheba chesed, and there's netzach sheba chesed, and malchus sheba chesed. They're all beautiful things and amazing things that the angels in Shamayim would appreciate. Down here, we want gashmis, and that's what we need. Not just we want, that's what we need down here. So that chesed is not going to be able to provide us with what we need. So what has to happen? That chesed has to start evolving lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And eventually that chesed could be manifested in things that are physical, which are the things that we need.
What's the mimer that he wrote?
I don't know. I don't know if it's documented anywhere. Maybe it isn't, I don't remember. So he says, Ein derech lamshachas tov v'chesed gashmi v'chesed elyon anal. The chesed gashmi that we're looking for, we can't get that from the chesed that's in the spiritual world. Only adei ribui hamshachas v'eslapshus. That it has to go through many stages of change and many changes of evolving from the higher level to the lower level. She'islabish ha'chesed sheb'machal da'atzilus b'levushim the kelim the chesed yitzfirs the biyah. Basically, the spheres of atzilus has to come down lower to the next world bria, and from the world of bria to yitzira, world of yitzira to asiya. Each world there are thousands, if not more, of levels of change and change. Ad she'yiu ma'amshpochas chaza inyanim gashmim, until that chayis could eventually come to the point where it's going to be manifesting in gashmizdika things. And even in Gashmis, v'yesh kama v'kama echola shederach bam ever shefa chesed atzilus. So when this sustenance has to be transmitted, it's like a journey. It starts up there, has to come down here. So it's like taking a trip somewhere. Until it comes here. The Yesmen Hashpos Gashmis. As it passes from one chamber to another chamber, it takes on more of a form that makes it closer to the physical world. Remember, we said last time that an apple is sweet, but there can also be music that's sweet. So the sweetness is the same, but it's a different sweetness when you talk about music or sweetness in apple, or the sweetness that's felt in seichel. There's a reason why we say that it's sweet. There's a reason why we use that word, because they're similar, but they're still in two different worlds. So therefore, what happens with Chesed of Atzilus, the one that's eventually going to be the source for me having clothing or a home or children or whatever it needs, has to go through level to level. And each level becomes more formed until it could eventually manifest in a Gashmistic way. So in each world, it's considered chesed. According to the standards of that world, it's chesed. But when it comes down here, it's going to be chesed. That's chesed according to our standards. And this includes all the good things in the physical world. And that's what it means a person is judged every day. Whether or not I'm going to get chesed or how much chesed I'm going to get, that's judged on Rosh Hashanah. But then there has to be a judgment. Should it go from level 900 to level 899? Now, should it go from level 899 to 898? So every level that this chesed has to go down, there's another judgment in Shemayim. Should it make that next move? So the chesed is there, but there still has to be a judgment. Does this person deserve that for him it should continue to flow? And therefore, every day, which means today is the day that good things are supposed to happen. So that means now it's going down to the lowest of levels, but it's going to be a change. It's still going to go from a ruchruzik chesed, and today it's manifest into something begashmis. So the judgment is, should it go through that change or not? Which means even if Rosh Hashanah I merited, but if chas v'shalom I did something that's inappropriate and I could block that bracha, then it doesn't. The bracha is there, but it just doesn't descend from the spiritual realm down to the physical realm. So therefore, we need davening or mitzvahs or everything else that we do to enhance the process of change from the spiritual to the physical, specifically today. Okay, we'll stop here on page 151. We'll continue tomorrow. You're very welcome. What? It went through all the levels, 1, 2, 3, quick.
No, she made it for a good class. I would be very. Don't make me